Welcome back to Marketing Champions on Daily Ad Brief. I'm your host, Mike White, and on Marketing Champions, we are meeting with experts in the industry that help with digital, creative, production, and all the marketing tools and tactics that companies need to help their businesses grow. Joining us today from Los Angeles, we have Roberto Serrini with One Man, One Camera. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Well, tell me a little bit about One Man, One Camera and the types of customers you work with.
Well, it's interesting. This was something that launched out of the pandemic and COVID. I'm a traditional creative director and director that has worked with larger companies like Ogilvy, RGA. I have a small production company called No Frames that does larger scale production. But One Man, One Camera was born out of the necessity that a lot of brands and markets had needed material and content that just couldn't be produced during COVID because of restrictions, because we just couldn't be around people. So there was this need to be able to create in a bubble. And if you were one man with a camera and had a bit of know-how, you were able to create content for these brands and really get their name out there, get their product out there in a way that was authentic and basically just served a purpose where there was none.
So what's the biggest mistake that you see companies making when it comes to their production or creative?
I think overthinking it a lot of the times. One of the other things that I've noticed was that as we've relied on social media more and more and more, and especially over this last 2 years where people have just been locked in their houses and most of the content being produced were being done by cell phones, by individuals, I think the general market's become very used to self-created ads, self-created content. And while I love a big commercial that's fully produced with lots of big names and, big fireworks, I think that people really just need authenticity in their branding, and they like to see products do what they do best. I think they like to see it be done by regular individuals. And if you can be just a little bit creative in that space, I think you stand out in spades. You don't need the large budgets anymore. You don't need the big creative. You just really need to be authentic. You have to let the product sing, and you have to find the right people to kind of bring that to the forefront that can do it in a natural way.
So when you say you don't need the large budgets, and companies would come in, big agencies, small agencies, they'd get a production bill, let's just call it $100,000 or made up numbers. Now, the same things you could do for a fraction of that. So how has the transition been from charging what you're worth for your idea to now charging a quarter of that because a lot of it's become commoditized?
Well, I think that those big budgets still apply. And I think some companies, like Apple's never going to go for a smaller budget campaign. They're just some people that have to spend the money because it's required of them. But I think you can charge a smaller budget, but you're going to have to expect a scaled down production, obviously. And that's kind of what I'm hinting at, is that you don't necessarily need to have these big flashy commercials anymore, especially if you're in a social space. So it's not necessarily that you're worth less and you're charging less. It's that you're charging for a different type of product, and an end result for your commercials is that you're basically putting something out there that's a little bit more authentic, a little bit, let's say, rougher or more content created, but it's going to get the messaging across to your audience where they're living, which is on social media versus on like a TVC for broadcast.
So a large scale budget and a slimmed down budget, just with a great creative narrative, could have similar results when it comes to a campaign. Is that correct?
Possibly. I think they actually have different results. It's the difference between doing cardio or doing like weightlifting. You're exercising, it's healthy for both of you, but like you're going to be affecting, I think, different parts of your body in the way that it responds. So a big budget TVC is definitely going to win more awards necessarily. It's gonna have a greater reach into different type markets where different types of eyeballs are, whereas a smaller, more controlled social campaign that's really crafty is going to kind of hit home in a much different way. But you're still going to attack the same number, if not more people, and I personally believe that that type of marketing is where the future is going. People are no longer so obsessed with commercials, so obsessed with the flash, the fireworks. They understand what commercials are. You know, Mad Men came out 10 years ago. The industry is well understood. People know they're being told that this is a commercial. So in a lot of ways, we have to be a lot smarter and a lot more real with the audience to connect with them on a really personal level that's effective.
What excites you most about the industry that you're in, and what frightens you most about the industry that you're in?
What excites me is that, you know, having been a director for nearly 20 years now and working with, you know, amazing top brands and amazing A-list clients, but the possibility that you can still make things new and you can do them in a smaller way is really, really cool. The technology is constantly changing and getting better and faster. And, you know, you can shoot anything with a cell phone these days. People hate hearing that, but that's the reality. You're watching it on a cell phone, you can shoot it on a cell phone. So this is a time where creativity really is king. You don't need the giant budgets. It's great if you have it. It's great if you have the crews and the talent and the creative power behind it, but you really don't need that. You can start with anything, just a good concept and some solid equipment, and you're able to produce some quality content. And I personally have seen more growth in these last 2 years where people are telling me, you know, oh, it's horrible, everything's dried up, and traditionally it has. But I personally have worked more these last 2 years than I ever have. The need for people creating content, good content, consumable content, is higher than ever, and I find brands are because of the necessity of it, have become very open to new creative concepts and ideas. So where you would normally have to follow trends that were going on of these big giants, now you can break out and do whatever you want. You have a good idea, you can bring it to direct to brand, and they'll be excited for it, and it'll perform fantastic. You know, people will start to realize, oh, we can think outside the box and do some really creative stuff here and not have to be burdened by the necessity of a big budget.
Well, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your insights with us. So thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks, Mike. It was great.
To find out more about one man, one camera, and all the amazing creative ideas and opportunities they can bring to your company, visit us at dailyadbrief.com. We'll see you next time on Marketing Champions.